In this video, you will learn about the major structures of the brain and how each contributes to its overall function. Gray matter contains the cell bodies of neurons as well as synapses. White matter contains axons connecting different parts of the brain. The fatty myelin sheath surrounding axons gives this tissue its white color, while nerves are the white matter of the peripheral nervous system. White matter structures in the central nervous system are called tracts. The cerebrum is the largest part of the brain, responsible for higher mental functions like thought, perception, and voluntary movement. A superficial layer of gray matter on the surface of the cerebrum is called the cerebral cortex. The wrinkled appearance of the cortex results from folds called gyri, sulci, and fissures. A gyrus is a fold that sticks outward. A sulcus or fissure is the opposite and inward groove. Fissures are generally deeper grooves compared to the sulci. The cerebrum forms two hemispheres, left and right, separated by the longitudinal fissure and connected by a thick tract of white matter called the corpus callosum. The corpus callosum allows communication between both hemispheres, ensuring the two sides of the brain work together. The word nucleus has different meanings depending upon context. For example, in chemistry, the nucleus of an atom is the core containing the protons and neutrons. In the context of cytology, the nucleus is the large organelle that contains DNA. A nucleus in the central nervous system is a cluster of gray matter. Scattered within the cerebral hemispheres are clusters of gray matter called the basal nuclei. These structures are involved in motor planning and non-declarative memory, the kind of memory that allows you to perform learned skills like riding a bike without consciously thinking about it. The cerebrum is also divided into lobes. The frontal lobe is involved in motor control, problem solving, and personality. A key area here is the precentral gyrus, which contains the primary motor cortex. This region sends commands to skeletal muscles initiating voluntary movement. The central sulcus is located between the frontal and parietal lobes. The parietal lobe is responsible for somatosensory perception. That's touch, temperature, pain, and spatial awareness. The postcentral gyrus in this lobe contains the primary somatosensory cortex, which receives and processes input from the body. The occipital lobe is located posterior to the parietal lobe. This lobe contains regions that handle visual perception, interpreting information from the eyes, allowing us to recognize objects, colors, and movement. The temporal lobe is located inferior to the lateral sulcus. This lobe contains regions involved in auditory and olfactory perception by interpreting sounds and smells. It also plays a major role in emotional processing and long-term memory. Deep within the temporal lobe lies the hippocampus, which is essential for declarative memory, that is, the memory of facts and events that you can consciously recall. The fornix is a tract of white matter that connects the hippocampus to the hypothalamus. These structures work together as parts of the limbic system to process memory and emotions. Hidden deep within the lateral sulcus is the insula. This region is important for gustatory perception, commonly known as the sense of taste. Deep beneath the cerebrum lies the diencephalon, which serves as a relay and control center between the brainstem and cerebral hemispheres. The thalamus is the largest and most superior region. This structure acts as a gateway to the cerebral cortex. Most sensory pathways travel through the thalamus before reaching the cerebral cortex. The hypothalamus is a small region on the anterior of the diencephalon that regulates the autonomic nervous system and the endocrine system, maintaining homeostasis by controlling hunger, thirst, temperature, and hormone release. The hypothalamus connects to the pituitary gland, and most of the hormones produced by the hypothalamus are released in the pituitary gland. The mammillary bodies are a pair of rounded projections on the inferior surface of the hypothalamus posterior to the pituitary gland. The fornix connects these structures to the hippocampus, and they are important for the circuit that forms declarative memory. Finally, the pineal gland is an unpaired structure located along the midline in the posterior of the diencephalon. This endocrine gland secretes melatonin, a hormone that helps regulate the sleep-wake cycle. Inferior to the cerebrum and posterior to the brainstem lies the cerebellum, which coordinates movement and balance. The cerebellum can store a type of memory used to learn skilled movements like playing an instrument or typing. This memory is called non-declarative memory. Inside, you can see a branching pattern of white matter called the arbor vitae, which connects the cerebellar cortex, also called the folia, to the cerebellar peduncles. These peduncles are white matter structure containing the tracks that link the cerebellum to the brainstem. The brainstem is the inferior region where the brain connects to the spinal cord. It contains numerous nuclei of gray matter that function as vital reflex control centers for basic life functions like breathing, heart rate, and reflexes. Most of the cranial nerves connect to the brainstem. There are also ascending and descending tracts of white matter that run through the brainstem, connecting the spinal cord to other regions of the brain. There are three major regions of the brainstem: the midbrain, pons, and medulla oblongata. The midbrain is located directly inferior to the thalamus. The pons is found inferior to the midbrain and anterior to the cerebellum. Inferior to the pons, the medulla oblongata is the region of the brain stem that connects to the spinal cord. Here we see a posterior view of the brain with the cerebellum removed to show the brain stem. The superior colliculus is a structure on the posterior of the midbrain that coordinates visual reflexes, for example, turning your head toward a sudden flash of light. The inferior colliculus manages auditory reflexes, such as reacting to a loud sound. The pons serves as a bridge between the cerebrum and cerebellum. The cerebellar peduncles pass through here, connecting the two regions to coordinate movement. The medulla oblongata continues into the spinal cord and regulates vital functions like heart rate, breathing, and blood pressure. Within it are several key structures. The pyramids are a pair of white matter structures on the anterior of the medulla, where somatic motor fibers cross the midline from one side of the body to the other. Lateral to each pyramid is a medullary olive, a structure that contains olivary nuclei important for relaying sensory information to other regions of the brain. Olivary nuclei relay sensory feedback to the cerebellum that allows for rapid adjustment of motor commands. Sensory information from the inner ears is also relayed through interneurons in the olivary nuclei. This sensory input includes information about hearing, as well as the equilibrium sense that helps us detect movement of the head and adjust motor commands to maintain balance. In summary, the brain is a complex network of specialized regions that work together to control everything from thought and emotion to movement and sensation. Understanding the structure and function of each part gives us insight into how the brain produces the full range of human experience.